Hello, today we're going to show you how to code an A&E letter effectively using BetterLetter. Now, what is A&E and what is an A&E letter? This is a letter sent to the general practitioner or the GP following a patient's visit to the Accident and Emergency Department, or A&E for short, detailing the treatment received. This is rapid, targeted information that ensures that the GPs can quickly mobilize community resources, understand the risk profile, and continue the critical care necessary to maintain the patient's safety post-crisis. Now, A&E is a more specific department, but this falls underneath the general emergency setting umbrella, which also includes several other services, including SDEC and AECs, SAUs, NHS 111s, out of hospitals, and ambulance reports. Now, what do we capture from A&E letters? A&E letters can contain a lot of information, but it's crucial to keep it down just to the important info. So things we would capture would include procedures with an outcome, confirmed diagnoses, medications, allergies or any safeguarding codes if applicable, height and weight, bloods, any relevant family history, and onward referrals. We also capture any QOF codes that have not yet been updated, including smoking and drinking codes. This allows us for the most accurate profile of the patient's needs and allows us to help practices keep patients as safe as possible. So how about the other end of that spectrum? What do we not capture from A&E letters? This could include non-confirmed diagnoses or working diagnoses, diagnoses when admitted to an inpatient from an emergency environment, as this would be considered a working diagnosis. The exception to this would be when it's confirmed on a scan, like a fracture on an X-ray. BPs and heart rates. These would only be captured if relating to a hypertensive disorder. So let's head over to our platform and get right into an example. So here we have our A&E letter. Now, if you haven't already, make sure that you assign the letter to yourself by pressing the Yes Assign to Me and Edit button here. We can now see in the bottom left corner that my name is attached to the letter, meaning now I have the ability to work through the letter. First thing we want to do is double check that the actual patient attached to our letter is the correct patient mentioned in our letter. So comparing that first and last name to what is attached through the EMIS patient match, as well as the date of birth and the NHS number, which also matches. So we know we have the correct patient. Next is going to be to double check the admin info in our table here. Because it is an A&E letter, I'm happy to keep it as an A&E discharge summary with the department as A&E. Our organization is a Gotham Hospital, which I'm happy to keep. Our letter date is the 30th of November, which also looks right, and we'll leave the clinic date blank as it's not a clinic visit. Seen in hospital casualty is the correct encounter status based on our letter type and department, so I'm happy to keep that. Next thing I'll do here is press that approve button. Now we'll go through and read our letter here. So our chief complaint was an arm injury, and our final diagnosis mentioned is a right radial fracture. Now, there is no mention of it being confirmed or anything like that, so we need to actually continue reading the letter to decide, is this something valid that we're able to capture, or is it an unconfirmed diagnosis? Because this will really determine where we capture the diagnosis within our kind of information here. So we'll keep reading through. So the patient presented with a fall from standing height, sustained while walking on icy pavement, attempted to break the fall with an outstretched hand, reported sharp pain in the wrist with swelling and deformity, and he is right hand dominant. They've got vital signs, BP 125/95 and heart rate 90 beats per minute. Now, our software has pulled up the blood pressure, but we don't actually need to capture that. And the reason why we don't capture it is because blood pressures and heart rates aren't always reliable in the emergency department due to patients usually having a lot of anxiety when they're in A&E. And we don't have any sort of confirmed hypertension diagnosis either. So we'll keep that off. Here they mentioned gross swelling tenderness, and then X-ray performed confirmed a fractal radius. So this is kind of what loops us back to our diagnosis, because our initial mention at the top here was that they did have a right radial fracture, but there was no confirmation or anything like that it is for sure the issue that patient is dealing with. Now, if we look down here, we can see there was a scan that was done that can confirm that that patient does have a fracture. And we know, based on kind of what we mentioned previously, that diagnoses can be captured when confirmed on a scan. So because this is confirmed, we'll capture it as a diagnosis. So I'll go ahead and capture that fracture of the radius. We'll go right arm and add that in as a new problem. And then we can add our right wrist x-ray. Maybe we want to add the outcome of what that scan was. So we'll click that and we'll go right wrist x-ray. Right wrist, there we go. Add that in as our procedure as well. Now he's got an allergy to penicillin. So what I will do is go to the patient history and double check if that code is in the patient history already, which we can see it is. So because that allergy is already captured in that patient's history, I will keep it off from collecting it here because it's already sat within that history. And then if we look up peanut, doesn't look like that allergy is captured in the history, so I'll go ahead and capture it as a new problem. And then we've got our weight, which I'm happy to keep, so we'll confirm that, and our height, which I'm also happy to keep. And then they've given them this takeaway medication for 5 days. So we can capture that, but it doesn't need to go to meds team or anything because it is a short-term medication and not a long-term medication. So 5 days doesn't need to be flagged. That is totally fine. And that's our whole letter. So really the main points of the letter here are to capture any procedures that have an outcome. So we've captured our x-ray with that outcome of the confirmed fracture. Any confirmed diagnosis, so again, we've captured that fracture of the radius as a confirmed diagnosis there. Any medications, so we've captured our medication here for 5 days, but left off the task as it's just a short acute medication. Any allergies, so we've captured our peanut allergy because it's not in that patient's history already, but we've chosen to leave the penicillin off as it does sit in that patient's history already, as we saw. There we go. Our height and weights we've captured as well, but we've left off our BP and heart rates because we can't really take them as reliable values when in the A&E department. And that is everything that we've captured on our letter here. So I'm happy with everything at this point. This is where I would then send our letter off to be sent to the patient's record in EMIS. So there you have it. We hope this video gave you a solid grasp on how to code an A&E letter. We used the BetterLetter platform today to walk through the coding. So if you're curious to learn more about the platform, just drop us an email at hello@betterletter.ai. We'd love to chat more about the platform. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.